Hello and welcome to the Left-Handed Bandit mobile paint party experience. Today's theme is going to be the Kanye West graduation bear. This is a custom theme. We're going to jump right into it by introducing our supplies, techniques, and things of that nature. Before we do begin, make sure you have all your supplies such as apron. You're going to need 2 paintbrushes. We have a foam brush and we have a mid-size detail brush. So 2 brushes. Something close to this nature you should have. You should have a paper towel. You should have a cup of water. It comes in handy. And you should have a plate of paint or some type of palette that holds paint. I have a ratchet cardboard set up today. I have the colors red, black, blue, brown, yellow, and white. Red, black, blue, brown, yellow, and white is the colors that you'll need. We'll be switching between these colors. We'll be mixing a bunch of different colors. This is more of a complex custom piece. We want to try our best to keep it under an hour, but the great thing about having your experience via digital through YouTube or whatever link that you may have, it allows you the convenience to either speed up, slow down, pause, and go through the video at your own convenience. So that's the reason that we have something pre-recorded for you so that you're able to rewind, fast forward, or pause in case you don't understand something. Feel free to reach out to me if you personally know me or have communication with me and ask for help if you need it. Otherwise, this video should be everything that you need to get through the painting successfully. So, you should have a canvas. Some people may have rented an easel. If you don't have an easel, you can make it work without an easel. Just take a stack of books or line your canvas up to a very heavy object or a wall, and you'll be able to get this done without the easel as well. So I'm going to start my painting by taking my foam brush. I'm going to dip my foam brush in my cup of water. I'm going to dip it around. I'm going to swish it around. I'm not going to bang my paint brushes to the bottom of my cup. That's how we ruin our bristles. I'm going to tap that brush off on the side of my cup. I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to dab both sides of my paintbrush off on my paper towel to get the excess water out of my paintbrush. We don't want any excess water dripping down our canvas. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by taking our paint, and on your plate or palette or cardboard, whatever you may have, you're gonna find a nice clean area. I'm going to take just a small bit of this red and I'm gonna lay it right in a clean area, small bit of red, and without rinsing our paintbrush or our foam brush off, I'm going to take just a very small amount of pink. This pink is going to mix right into this red and make almost a hot pink color. So you're gonna need more red than pink. You wanna mix up a good amount, maybe about the size of a quarter or somewhere close to what I have on my plate. And we're gonna use this to start painting in our canvas. I'm gonna adjust this easel just a little bit, bring it on closer so you can see. What I'm going to do is with that foam brush and with that hot pink colored paint, I'm going to begin by taking my canvas and I'm going to start lightly dabbing in around the bear figure towards the bottom. And I'm lightly dabbing in. I'm keeping a little bit of space in between my bear and my paint. So I'm not going all the way to the bear, at least not yet. So between my bear and my paint, I'm going to add this hot pink color towards the bottom, leading all the way to the bottom of the canvas. Just kind of dabbing it on. We don't need to get it nice and smooth and perfect just yet because we are going to be adding more colors to this in just a second. So I'm going to get in between the legs just a little bit. Again, keep a little bit of space in between the paint and the bear. If a little bit of paint gets on the bear like I just did, it's not the end of the world. We'll go back and make adjustments in a little while. I'm coming over here on the bottom right side of the canvas and doing the same thing, keeping a little bit of distance in between the bear and my paint, a little bit of white space. Gonna keep on dabbing on. I'm gonna come right around to the bear paws, and I'm gonna probably start stopping right about there, around those bear paws, and this easel's moving around a little bit, so I'm gonna adjust it back again. So, got this paint down here, and I'm gonna bring it up just a tad bit higher. Just a tad bit here. I'm gonna come back on the left, and I can add just a tad bit more over here. So if you start running out of paint on your brush, that's okay. We want that because in a second we're going to start adding another color to start adding some blends. And I'm starting to run out of paint on my foam brush, and that's okay. I'm not going to dip my paintbrush in water just yet, but instead I'm going to wipe both sides of my paintbrush off on my paper towel to get the excess paint off or any remaining paint. Now I have a nice dry but dirty brush. With that dry but dirty brush, you can go right back into your color white and grab just a touch of that white where you grabbed it before. All we need is just a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way around and a little bit closer to the bear at this point. Take your time. And I'm going to start dabbing closer to the bear. And as I'm dabbing this white on, it's turning a bit white. We're going to use that to start making some of these cloud details. So we're jumping back and forth and grabbing just a touch more white at a time. Lightly wisp your canvas with that paint, and it's going to start blending together for you. Now when I'm wisping my paint, I'm holding my brush right in the middle. I'm going to take it and lightly either flick my fingers or flick my wrist so that I can blend that nice and smooth. If you flick too hard, if you press too hard, it won't blend as smooth. The effect won't be as impactful. So just take your time, be very delicate, lightly blend around that canvas. The more white you add, the more smoky cloud effects you're going to have. And I'm working my way closer to the bear figure at this point, going right to the outline. And if you go inside the bear a little bit, it's not the end of the world. We can always make adjustments later. I got the white clouds starting to take form on this left side by adding more and more white. I'm not going to go all the way to the top because our clouds are going to switch colors in just a few. But remember, the lighter you press and flick, the better your blending details will be. The harder you press, the worse it will be. And keep on playing with more and more white paint. The more paint you add, the more vibrant it will be. But again, be careful. Try not to go overboard because it will cloud out your painting and be a bit too much for the eye to handle. I'm going towards this right side now. Again, I'm going to turn my brush in different angles. That allows us to get these sharp points in a different tighter, sharper spaces so that we can comfortably paint the bear without worrying about getting too much paint inside of him. Working my way around the figure, taking my time with this. If I am going too fast, this is a tutorial, so you are allowed to pause it. You are allowed to rewind as much as you need to. And of course, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to reach out and I'll try my best to help you. So I want nice, smooth blending. I'm still taking my time. I'm still dabbing lightly and flicking lightly on this canvas. This is acrylic paint that we're using. Acrylic paint is known to dry very, very fast. So if you reach a certain area, kind of like I'm reaching over here where the paint is kind of dried up, it will be hard to blend. So what you want to do is you're welcome to kind of bounce back and forth between that white and that hot pink so that we can keep fresh colors on our canvas and allow this painting to blend nice and smooth without too many issues. So feel free to bounce back and forth between those colors. You don't have to dip it in water just yet. We'll do that in just a few. I'm adding more white to this canvas so I can create more of a clouded effect for the background. It will come together towards the end. Right now, you may even be thinking this is looking kind of awkward, kind of strange, but we're just in the beginning of our painting, and those details are going to come together very soon, I promise. Don't forget to get in the bottom between the shoes. Turn your brush different directions. That allows you to get in those areas, those nice little areas, without doing too much damage to the inside of your bear. Take your time, use the corner of the brush, use the tips of the brush. All right, I got in there. Now I'm liking the way it's looking, but however, I want to add just a little more white paint to make it just a bit more vibrant for the clouds so that you can tell that the bear is actually floating through the sky. So I'm going to come back over here, add just a little bit more white, layer it up. If we go back and add more paint to an area on our canvas that is already dried, that paint will layer up and it'll make that painting a little bit more vibrant, a lot more noticeable. So play around with that as we go through this painting and see how that works for you. I'm going to add a little bit more white towards the bottom over here. And then I'm liking the way that's looking for now. I can always go back towards the end of the painting and add more detail later. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to come and get the sky filled in at the top above the bear's head. Now that color is going to switch over from pink to a purple. Now we don't have any purple mixed up, so we'll have to mix that. To mix up purple, you'll need to take just a small touch of blue paint, small touch of blue paint with red paint. So I'm going to find a clean area on my canvas again. I'm going to come right over here to where I had that hot pink because it's going to be pretty close. Add some of that red, and I haven't even wiped off my paintbrush or dipped it off in water yet. I'm using the same colors that are on my brush. That's going to help me blend better. So a nice amount of red, a very, very, very small touch of blue, if you can see that. Small touch of blue mixed in there. I'm going to mix that together. It's going to start to give me a bit of a violet, almost like a crimson. So I'm going to go back and add just a touch more blue so we can go darker and make it more of a purple. Now it's starting to give me a purple color. So red and blue makes purple. It's okay if it touches that hot pink. Now we got purple mixed up. And now we can take that purple color with that same foam brush, and above the head, the same way we did that hot pink, we're going to start filling in some purple. And we're going to avoid touching the bear for now. We're going to work around the bear figure, leave a little bit of white space right in between that purple and that bear. Dab it on your canvas. You don't need too much. You'll need just a little bit less of this purple color than you needed for the hot pink. Dab it on the best you can. Try to make sure there's no thick globs because that'll slow us down later. But it can be as messy as you like because this is a sky and the pattern of a sky is nice and freeform. Therefore, that means it's almost random. So there's no way to get a uniform, perfect sky. So try not to aim for perfection when it comes to the sky part. The perfection parts can come in later. So I've got a nice purple dabs on my canvas. It's looking kind of weird looking, so I'm going to take this foam brush, wipe both sides off on my canvas, and on my paper towel. On my paper towel. Please don't wipe it on your canvas just yet. Getting that excess paint off my brush onto my paper towel. I got a cleanish but dryish foam brush. I'm going to go into my white paint. I'm going to grab a touch of white paint the same way we made that cloud effect with the bottom part of the sky. We're going to do the same with the top. So I'm going to work my way in a little bit closer to the bear figure now, coming to the lines if I need to, and dabbing on some white. That's going to mix with that purple and make it almost a lavender color. Go back and forth, working between the blue and the white. The purple and the white, so that we can get that desired cloud effect and start blending these things out. Again, remember to play around with the direction of your paintbrush so that you are able to work your way into sharper, tighter areas. Sharper, tighter areas. Getting closer, and as some of this dries up, I will be able to go back later and layer up. It's a kind of a tongue twister. Go back in later and layer up this canvas so that we can have a nice mixture between these purples, these pinks, and these whites. Now at this point, we're starting to meet the purple sky. Now this is the point where we can start still using that same foam brush, but we can wipe the excess paint on our paper towel and we can dive back and forth between our hot pink, our purple, and our white. So all three of these colors, you can feel free to jump around without even rinsing it in water. So if I can take a little bit, I can mix up a little bit more pink first. Take a little bit of pink and go on here and dab in some pink here. That'll start blending with my purple. And then can go over here, do the same thing. It starts to mix together. While it's mixing together, I'm taking advantage of that and trying my best to make it nice and smooth because acrylic paint needs to be wet in order for it to blend. Otherwise, it will not. So the white comes in handy for that part. So if you realize that, you add a little bit more pink or purple at any part and it is not as wet as you like it, you can go ahead and just add another color on top of that and it should start to blend for you. Again, we're not searching for perfection with this sky. We want it to be a little bit sloppy looking. We just want to make sure it's nice and smooth. So pay attention as I'm smoothing out my sky in different areas. And I'll be going back and layering up later so that we can make the sky even more impactful. But even right now, in this early part of the process, we can see the sky is really starting to come together, and I'm really liking the effect that it's making. The sponge brush is awesome for blending details in bigger parts of your canvases. This is why we use this and just one regular paintbrush, so that we can get our blends right and then we can get our details right later. So I'm just about set on my sky for now. I just want to add a couple more foam brush strokes because I'm a bit of a fake perfectionist. And now that I have that, I'm going to layer up just a little bit more white. Just a little bit more white. Maybe right about here. And then right over here. And it's not as vibrant as I'd like it, so maybe in a few I'll come back and I will layer up some white and make it a bit more vibrant. But for now, I'm not mad at that. I'm digging the way that looks. So if you need to take this break and pause the video and add more adjustments to your sky, feel free. If you want to take a couple more minutes and smooth out your colors, feel free. If you want to go back in and add just a little bit more pink to different areas, feel free to do that as well. This is the moment where you want to kind of quote unquote finalize your sky, but at the same time, it's not final because later on in the painting, we will go back and we will make adjustments to this background more than likely. But you can do that to your own discretion. So I'm just going in here and doing this just because, again, I'm a bit of a fake perfectionist, but I think we're looking good for now. So with that sky now being set, we can go ahead and either drop our foam brushes into our water, or we can rinse them off and save them for later in case we'd like to make some more adjustments. I'm going to swish my foam brush around. Whoops, spilling water all over the place. Rinse my foam brush around and tap it on the side of my cup. I'm going to dab both sides off with my paper towel. And I'm just going to hold it right to the side for a few minutes just so that I can utilize it later. So for this next step, we're going to go ahead and filling in the bear. We're going to fill the bear in with part by part, color by color, very simple colors first, and then later on we can layer up, and I'll show you exactly how you can do that. So again, very simple color breakdown, very simple color fill-ins, and later on we can add the fun details. The fun details are the fun part, of course, but for now, let's keep it simple. And try to remember that throughout this next step, just to keep it as simple as you can. Now, if you're an experienced painter and you'd like to go ahead and add some other details, I encourage you to do so if you already have experience. Or if you're a person that likes a challenge and likes to just take risks, I encourage you to do that as well. Just remember, I can't guarantee that your painting will look the way it's supposed to look. So for this next step, I'm using my regular paintbrush. You should have a paintbrush close to the size, maybe a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit smaller. They'll all do the same thing. As I blend for this, I'm going to hold in the middle. As I paint regular, I can hold it wherever I'm most comfortable holding it. I'm going to start with my brown paint. I'm going to take a little bit of brown paint. I'm going to go ahead and start filling in the areas that should be brown. I'm going to start in the head by working my way around here. So I'm going to fill in a nice solid layer of brown. I'm going to go a little bit fast, but again, you don't have to go this fast. If you want to pause the video, feel free to pause the video. Start it back up when you're ready. But I'm going to quickly fill in this brown color, a nice solid layer of brown paint. So what I mean by that is no gaps in between the paint. You don't want to be able to see that white canvas background. You want to be able to see blended colors, no globs of paint. Not right now. A nice solid layer, and later on we can go back and add more detail. But for now, let's keep it simple. So if you're covering some of those black outlines, that's fine. We can always bring those back later. It's not the end of the world. I Got some globs, so I'm just gonna smooth my globs of paint out. Just like that, it's real easy. Nice tip is to pretend as if you're painting a real bear, a real three-dimensional bear that is floating through the air. I know that sounds a bit silly, but pretending like we're actually painting real things will help us keep that brush stroke where it should be going. So if I'm painting this top edge of his head, I'm curving my brush stroke nice and around. I'm not gonna paint up and down or side to side, but I'm curving around and following the shape of his head as well as the shape of his eye. So I got that head filled in with a nice flat layer of brown paint. If you see gaps in between or light spaces in between, go over those one more time. When this dries, we'll be able to layer up and make the painting a bit more vibrant, like I mentioned earlier. Got a nice solid head shape filled in. I'm going to move to the ears next, but not the entire ear. Remember, just the outer edge of this ear is going to be, whoops, moving this canvas all around. Outer edge of this ear is going to be filled in here and here. Other part will come later when we fill in with a lighter color. So we got that filled in. I'm going to go ahead next and aim for the paws, the bear paws. So right down here, we have one paw brown and the other paw is brown. Leave a little bit of space. There's a little bit of a trimming right here between the paw and the sleeve. So leave that open for just a few minutes. We'll fill it in a second. We got the paws filled in with a nice solid brown color. We can let that dry. We're going to move next to the, how about we move into the jacket next? So I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to dip my paintbrush in my water, swish it around, trying to bang your bristles to the bottom of the cup. Tap both sides off on your paper towel. Dab both sides off on your paper towel as well. I'm going to switch to gray paint. So for gray paint, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to mix it up, of course. So to make gray, we mix the colors black and white. So I'm going to take just a very small touch of my black. Very little bit is all we need. I'm going to go to my white. I'm going to find a part of my white. Do not mix the paint into all of your white because you're going to need some white for later. And we're going to mix up some gray paint. Something close to this, almost like an ash gray. If it's too light, then just simply go back and grab just a little bit more black and it'll get darker. So we're mixing up an ash gray. So with my ash gray, I can go in here and I can begin to fill in this inner part of the jacket. So this part and this part are the jacket parts that are going to be filled. Again, a nice solid layer of paint. No globs of paint, no spaces in between, nice and flat and smooth. We'll layer up later on and bring a lot of those details in. So for this jacket, my brush strokes are going in different directions just to make sure it gets filled in all the way. I'm going to go to the other side, do the same thing. It's a little bit smaller, so I won't need as much paint. Make sure there's no globs. So I got that filled in. And then next, we have gray shoes as well. So I'm going to take some more gray paint, and if you need to mix it some more, feel free. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to fill in his shoes. Now, filling in the shoes with gray. It's okay if you're covering up the black. We can always bring it back later. Okay, I'm running out of gray, so mix up a little bit more and fill in that last shoe. And then from here, we'll move to the we'll move to the sleeves and the t-shirt next. So I'm filling in this other sneaker, if I know how to say it. This other sneaker. Nice, smooth, flat, solid layer of paint. No white showing through, no blend showing through. We can add those details in later. So I got my hat filled in. Sorry, he doesn't even have a hat. Yeah, I got my jacket filled in and I got my sneakers filled in. So I'm going to leave those as they are for now. And I'm going to take my paintbrush. I'm going to rinse it off in my water. Twirl it around. Tap it on the side of your cup. Dab both sides of your paintbrush off on your paper towel to get that excess water out the bristles. Now we got a nice cleanish brush. That head's starting to dry as well. I just want to pay attention to these other areas of the painting. Acrylic paint dries within just a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes tops. My background is pretty dry to the touch already, so we can layer up again in a little while. Head's starting to get dry. Paws are halfway dry. Gray is still wet. We just put that on. So let's move on to the next part. We're going to work on the sleeves and the t-shirt. And I'm going to put a little bit of detail on the inside of the eye. And from there, I'll move to the ears next. So, jumping right back into it, I'm going to take my cleanish paintbrush. I'm already dipped it in water. I'm going to go to white. It's the nice solid white. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in that left sleeve on the right side of the canvas, the bear's left sleeve. Nice solid layer of paint. Now, you're probably thinking, why fill in white with white? But you'll be able to tell the difference when the painting's done if you just left the canvas white versus actually putting in white paint. And then later on in the painting as well, I'm going to layer up and add some shadows to the sleeves. And in order to add the shadows, I need a base coat of white on first before I start layering up. I got one sleeve done. I'm going to go in and do the sleeve on the opposite side. Got a little bit of extra paint on here, so I'm going to tone that down. So I got white in the second sleeve. I'm going to move to the t-shirt right in the center. I'm going to add white to that t-shirt. And then I'm going to go to the bear's eyeballs, the eye sockets. I'm going to add a layer of white to those eye sockets. We'll be laying up with the eyes later too, not necessarily with shadows, but with the actual pupils and details of the eye. So we got that filled in nice and smooth. And what I can do now is move to the next part, which is going to be the ears. I am not dipping my paintbrush off in water. Instead, I am wiping both sides off on my paper towel. I'm going to go directly into that Naples yellow paint, which is a bit of a lighter yellow, a goldish yellow almost, soft gold. I'm going to fill in the inside of his ears with this goldish yellow color. Nice and smooth. I'm going to go to the other ear. Fill in the other ear. We can add details later to that if we'd like. And then next, I'm going to come and with that same Naples yellow, I'm going to add a couple of dabs. Now, we're not completely filling in this mouth part. I'm adding just a couple of dabs of that yellow to the inside of that mouth part. I'm avoiding that nose. And after I got a couple of dabs of yellow on, I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my paintbrush onto my paper towel. I'm going to go right into my white and grab a touch of white. And I'm going to come back into that mouthpiece and I'm going to blend in some white, and it's going to automatically blend with that yellow. Let's keep it inside the lines, inside the space. And it's gonna make almost a peach tone for that mouth. If we get some browns mixing in, that's okay. That's just gonna add more effects to our painting. So if you have a little bit of brown trim still wet on there, it's all right. It's just gonna add more detail, I promise. So if you want to go back and add just a little bit more white or yellow, if it's too white, then feel free. Just make sure there's no globs of paint. Make sure it's nice and smooth. If you go on the nose a little bit, it's not the end of the world. So we got the mouth part filled in, we got the paws, the head, the jacket completely filled in, except we're missing some trimming on the jacket. So before we do the trimming, we're gonna rinse off our paintbrush in water, tap it on the side of your cup, dab both sides off on your paper towel, and I'm going to switch to my blue paint first. So using just a little bit of blue paint, we're gonna fill in those jeans first. Let's work light, let's work darker first. So we're gonna fill in those jeans with blue paint, completely filled in with blue. Try your best to keep it within the parameters of the shape. Nice smooth application of paint, no globs. I got a couple of globs on mine, so I'm going to smooth those out by just stretching them into the other parts of the painting. So now I got a nice flat layer of blue, but I'm going to take you for a little bit of a twist. And when I got my nice flat layer of blue paint filled in those jeans, I'm going to immediately add some highlights to these jeans. I'm going to wipe the excess paint off of my paintbrush onto my paper towel. And while these jeans are wet with blue paint, I'm going to grab just a touch of white paint. And I'm going to choose maybe an area right here on the right. And I'm going to choose an area right here on the left, on the inside, just to dab some white paint in. I'm going to wipe the brush off with my paper towel again, and I'm going to lightly wisp in some of that white to make a bit of a highlight on my jeans. Now, we'll be doing some of this after our break in just a second, and I'll show you how to do that because we need to take a break and after this next couple of steps so that our canvases can dry so that we can add those details to the foreground. So for right now, adding in, got a little bit of yellow mixed in there, but it looks kind of good. I'm adding in some highlights to my Bear jeans, giving it a little bit more flair and pop to the overall piece. And now that we have baby blue already on our paintbrushes, we can go to our paint plate or palette or cardboard. We can take just a little bit of blue, find another area of that white, not all the white, we'll need a little bit of white for later. Mix in that blue to that white. Let's create some baby blue or some sky blue, Carolina blue, however you want to refer to it. And we're going to get the trimming of his jacket. So we have a trim at the sleeves. We have a trim at the other sleeve. We have a trim at the bottom edges of his jacket. I'm just filling this in with one solid layer right now, just for now. And then we have a trim other side of the jacket. And finally, on both sides of the collar. Go to the other side of the collar. Now we got the jacket filled in. So, at this point, we are going to take a break so that everything we do after the break is going to have a significant effect and dramatic effect as well on the bear and will be the final steps of the bear. So, at this point, what you can do is, if you'd like to add more details to your sky, feel free to add more details to your sky utilizing the tips that I gave you earlier. With the sky being dry now, when you layer paint on top of it, you'll need to blend more colors than just the purple or the red alone or the white alone, but you'll have to bounce between all three colors to keep that consistent blend. And after you do that, you can also make more touches to the inside of your bear if you feel the need to. And then once that's all set, let it dry at least 10 minutes, just to be sure. And we'll come back after the break and we'll check our paintings to see how dry they are. So I'll see you for part 2 of this video.